Welcome to Nailed It, a podcast featuring business tips from industry leaders, presented by Clever Punch. Here's your host, Jade Flogerzi.
Welcome to today's episode, where we're going to dive into stories of industry leaders and innovators shaping our communities. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with President Joey Kochanski of Woodcliffe Builders, a company that just celebrated its remarkable 12-year anniversary. With a dedicated team of 20 employees, Woodcliffe Builders has been building a legacy across the vibrant neighborhoods of San Jose, including Campbell, Los Gatos, Willow Glen, Woodside, and Los Altos. Their expertise is focused on residential builds and spans a wide range of services, from new construction and custom additions to full remodels and small renovations. Joey Kochanski embarked on his journey after spending 8 years mastering custom home building with a general contractor in San Jose. Driven by a vision to create a company rooted in his own values, Joey founded Woodcliffe in 2012, naming it after the street that he grew up on. So let's explore Joey's inspiring journey, the growth of Woodcliffe Builders, and their impact on the San Jose community. Welcome to the podcast, Joey.
Thanks, Jade. I appreciate you having me on today and looking forward to going through this podcast with you.
Cool, me too. So tell me, when did you decide you were going to be a builder?
So deciding to be a builder was kind of something that happened probably in like the first or second year of high school. I had always had a little bit of a tough time in school as far as just, kind of sitting still and focusing on my homework. And I had one of my best friends during that time. His dad, he was a contractor. He wasn't a general contractor, but he worked for a lot of general contractors. And I just was able to have a lot of insight onto the projects that he got to be a part of. And I really enjoyed seeing those projects in high school and even like in middle school when we were hanging out. It was just, he was always had free times on Friday. Looking back on it now, I can tell he was probably still weighed down with a lot of stress of the phone constantly ringing and keeping up with all the projects he had going. But I think I always liked working with my hands. I think in 8th grade, actually in middle school, I had taken a wood shop class and I really loved the wood shop class. I liked using the tools, building things. It's just so satisfying. And then as I went through 8th grade, the high school I got into actually wasn't my first choice of high school, but all my friends were going to a different high school. And I was kind of where I lived was kind of zoned out of this other high school. But the good thing about the high school I got into is they had a great wood shop program, which the other high school did not have. So all 4 years of high school, I was in wood shop. The last 2 years of high school, junior and senior year, I was also in advanced wood shop. And both those years, I was also a teacher's assistant for wood shop. So like my days were filled with building things from wood, building things from scratch. And it really helped me see that I wanted to do something with my hands. I think between freshman year and sophomore year, I was able, from my friend's dad, my best friend's dad, he got me a job with one of his buddies who was a developer, general contractor. And he got me a job basically working in the summers. So I was able to go see and work with these framers and carpenters that were just building these really cool houses. At that time, I was very much used as a laborer. So I really did start from the bottom. I was sweeping jobs in high school. On the summers, I was there pretty much sweep and clean up jobs all day long. But I got a lot of experience being on the job site in high school. And at the time, it was paying me a lot more money than any other job I could have gotten as far as like a summer job. So it was
Nice.
very enticing and it was really nice to be a part of a team. Like I felt like I was a part of the team, even though I was working in the summers. But by the third summer I worked for this company, I felt like I was really a part of the team. I got one of our lead, like the superintendent on one of the job sites. I remember that summer, oh, you don't have tool bags. He went out and bought me tool bags, a tape measure, and he bought me a power saw. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's really cool. So, and he bought me those tool bags. My boss, the owner of the company, saw that I had those tool bags and I was still in high school. And he said, you know what, if you can start working with the guys picking up and actually using those tools, that'd be great. Put the broom down. It all kind of started from middle school, really was when I decided I really liked working with wood. I liked, at the end of the day, in residential construction, was seeing like how much you can achieve in just a day and like look back at it at the end of the day and say, oh, I built that or I did that. And it always felt really good to do. So as I went through my senior year, I had taken a couple admissions tests to some colleges, but I really was kind of like, I want to be a carpenter and I want to have my own business someday. I want to be a general contractor someday and do what my boss was doing at the time, building these large custom homes. And it's very appealing.
Yeah. I love hearing that because just with the kind of the current state of our kids in high school and careers that they're looking at, so many are going into different industries, into tech, and a lot want to be entrepreneurs and all these different industries. But I love hearing about just your experience of getting interested in the trades. And I love that your school offered something that appealed more to your strengths and your interests, and that it was some really nice stepping stones put in place to help you have that interest in middle school and then through high school, and then to start getting experience on the job and to start gaining, sounds like gaining your confidence, like with the guys on the team and gifting you the tool belt. At what point did you decide that you wanted to own and manage your own company and take that step from working for somebody to having your own business? What was that like?
That was kind of, so immediately after high school, I had a senior trip planned with some buddies and we went on this senior trip. And all my buddies at the time were kind of, after that senior trip, were just kind of getting relaxed for the summer and they're getting ready to go away to the colleges that they're enrolled in and move out and get their dorms. And mine was like, didn't really have any plans, but I knew I was going to be working full time. And I knew I had the opportunity to work full time as not just a laborer now, but a carpenter. And that was kind of what I did. I went on a 5-day trip right after the day after graduation. And then I immediately started working full time. I remember back on a Sunday evening, I was like, okay, Monday's my first day being in this full-time position offering. And at the same time, my parents were very much like all the way through high school. We're like, okay, you can work as a carpenter, but you need to, if you want to continue, you need to go to college. You need to do X amount of credit, go to the junior college, and then try to transfer into that university of your choice. Like that's really where you need to go with moving forward, because having a college degree is it's a major, also a stepping stone, I think, for any parent as far as what they want for their children. And for me saying, no, I just want to be a carpenter, I'm thinking in my head, my boss didn't go to college. I don't need that education. It's all going to be learned on site, was kind of what I was telling myself and wanted to believe myself. So immediately after my senior graduation, starting to work full time, I kind of figured out that I had to really work extra hard because now I'm working a full-time job as a carpenter and also doing these classes where I had to go to school at night, which was like the last thing I wanted to do after being in the sun all day, working as a residential framer on these big projects we're doing that were all outside and doing the school while working. It was working. I just couldn't do like a full school load. So I really knew that I had to like work my butt off to be able to achieve something that I really wanted. Like my ultimate goal was being a general contractor. Becoming a general contractor, it's basically you have to get your license, you have to have work experience, or you have to have college experience, like a college diploma and a mixture, like a hybrid of work experience and a college diploma to apply and get a general contracting license. So I continued to work. I was going to school, not taking it super seriously, but after like 4 or 5 years of now working full time and seeing now my friends are kind of graduating from college, they're finishing up their college and now they're all looking for jobs. And I'm like I have all the work experience. I was like, well, I need to kind of graduate from maybe just being an employee for an employer. And at that time I was like, okay, well, maybe I can achieve the college goal by moving down to San Luis Obispo because I really wanted to go to Cal Poly. And that was one of the schools I didn't get into right out of high school. And I had accrued during the time some general education credits to try to transfer into Cal Poly for the construction program. So I moved 4 years after high school down to Cal Poly. I was at the junior college down there. So the school counselor was like, okay, well, if you go to Cuesta Community College, you can take the construction technology classes and then transfer into Cal Poly much easier than if you're just taking standard general ed classes at another junior college. So I tried that for 2 years. I didn't get in to Cal Poly. So, but during that time, I was also still working in the summers, and I was also still very much studying for my contracting license. And on the second summer, when I was like, okay, I didn't get into Cal Poly after 2 years, now 6 years out of high school, I decided to take my contractor's license test because at that point I met all the requirements before I could actually get approved to get a general contracting license. I had my work hours. I had all work hours, sign off from my superintendent that saying I worked those hours. And I also had the minimum age requirement, which I believe at the time was 25 years old before they really come back and audit to see if your work hours really aligned with the actual work hours of what your employer or whoever's signing off on you says. So I went down to apply for my license. I had all the requirements, got my previous boss to sign off on the application I needed, went down to the license board with an application, turned it in, and they, within, I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks after I sent this application in, I was like, oh man, they're reviewing it. I'm never going to stop. Just super anxious. And then all of a sudden in the mail, I got a notification saying, oh, your test date is in 3 weeks. Oh, wow. Now I got it's crunch time. So I found like a contracting license school, like locally, that have these crash courses on the weekend. So I took the crash courses before this test, which would basically, they gave you samples of what they thought would be on the license test. And you take these tests for 3 weekends in a row, Saturdays and Sundays. And I had these 9-hour classes you go to. The most redundant thing I've ever done. But I went into my test, took the test, passed the test, got my contractor's license, and at the time still working for my old boss at the time. I told him I got my license. He's like, oh, that's cool that you have your license, but I'm here for you. I know you're still going to work for me. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way because he said, you'll never be as successful as I'll be. And that kind of lit a fire under my ass to be like, no, I've done a lot for you and you've done a lot for me by signing off to let me get this, but I don't really want to be talked down to, and I'm not going to take that. I want to be a general contractor. I wish I had more support from him, but looking back on it right now, it's kind of what gave me the drive to move forward and be like, no, I have my life now. And I just started out, I was like, simultaneously while I was working for him, I was doing little odd end side jobs here and there. And then I got a couple big opportunities that came up. And that's when I'm like, you know what, I'm going to just go out on my own now. Cause I couldn't get over the fact that he was like, oh, you'll always come back to me for work because you're not going to be successful in what you do. And still to this day, I'm like, I will do everything I can not to fail as a business owner. But at that time, I think there's a lot of also ego involved, right? Where it's like, someone says something to you, lights a little bit of a fire, and you're like, oh, watch this. Being 25 years old, you want to think you're king of the world. So there's been a lot of learning curve. I feel like I'm learning every day. Now we're over 12 years in business now, and the team's grown exponentially. Whereas when we first started, it was me and one other employee who was a friend, and we started doing all these odds and ends jobs. And I then hired my second employee who's still with me today. And he's one of our lead superintendents on the job site. So it's been a big growing curve and I've learned quite a bit from it. Now I'm less bags on and I'm more in the office helping manage this stuff. And I think also looking back on it, where the college education might have helped a little bit or business degree, but we take every day, just one day at a time. Honestly, it's just 1 year at a time. And it's constant learning curve. The more employees, the more complex the projects get, the larger the jobs get. There's just so many curveballs that are constantly coming out. I think I work well under pressure and learned that just from, I think maybe it was the work ethic I had in growing up in construction, because kind of a cutthroat workplace where not at my company now, not at Woodcliffe, but like other general contractors, I think it's just like come on the job, or people get this vision of general contractors just being these overly stressed tyrants that are just like slave drivers with all their guys, and they're just cracking the whip every day on everyone, yelling at everyone. And that was very much how my old boss was. And I was like, feel like it. He was just a little bit nicer to everyone that was around him. If we could have a workplace where everyone's just respects everyone and can trust the people that work around them, that what makes for a good workplace. Just kind of what I've gone with since then.
Mhm. I love hearing the journey and all the pieces that contributed to it and how, like you said, it was so challenging at the time, but you get to a point where you're actually so grateful for those circumstances. Like you said, if that wasn't the relationship with your boss, you wouldn't have been motivated to prove to yourself that you could do it. And two, it sounds like while it wasn't maybe the best environment to work under, it seems like you learned so much more about the way you don't want to do things versus maybe the way if things are done well. So it was all part of your journey, right? So I'm curious, after now Woodcliffe being in business for 12 years and hearing about the changes that you've gone through, the way your team's grown, how every year kind of has new challenges and new obstacles to learn and overcome and improve on. What do you think makes people want to work with Woodcliffe Builders from a client perspective? Why do you think they choose to work with you? What do you think appeals them to the company?
Yeah, so I think like with our clients now, like what's I feel what is appealing about Woodcliffe is now that in the last 5 years we've developed a design team. So we're kind of like a full turnkey outfit. We offer everything, all the pre-construction services. So, and then we take you right through into construction, and we do the design because we do the construction. We don't typically want to do just design work for clients where we offer design services so we can go into construction, go into contract with the construction contract. But this adds a lot of value to the company and to a lot of value to our clients that are willing to trust Woodcliffe to take them from conception of design, taking this idea that they're drawing on the back of a napkin, putting it in paper, and now we're finishing this thing up and handing them the keys over on their project, whether it's a year later, a year and a half later, because of permitting and the design thing. We have a very rigorous and detailed design team that goes through everything. So before we start construction, we know what doorknobs going on, what paint colors are going in place, the cabinet, the slabs, the tile, all the plumbing fixtures, electrical fixtures. We source all those materials during the design process, price out the whole job. So we basically, when we go into construction, we know exactly the cost of what the job's going to be. We have them sign a contract. Obviously, there's always like unforeseen items that come up, right? And there's also change orders that could come up in the construction process where we might have to go back to the design team. But once the construction contract's signed off, the designers are really very much hands off on the project. Our designers will meet with like the client on site for tile layout when the tile's ready, or if there's questions that come up, they will work with the project managers and the client. Design team will work with the project manager, client to help get everyone through or over any obstacles that because we do a lot of remodel work, right? So we're doing a lot of additions, which is new construction onto existing houses. And when we're doing that, there's a little bit of guesswork that we always or guesswork or assumption that we're hoping that the existing foundation on the house is as good as it looks from what we can visibly see from underneath the crawl space or what we can see up in. We add a lot of value and we take a lot of stress off our clients from having to go and source product, source tile, plumbing fixtures. When I first started this, I would just do the construction end of it. And we're like, okay, I can do this job for $300,000. I need to have all the plumbing fixtures here in 2 weeks. I need to have all the doors here in 3 months. And then the plumbing fixtures get there, the doors get there, the tile, everything is backwards or wrong or incorrect. So now I'm in construction and well, it's client provided plumbing fixtures, client provided electrical fixtures. They forgot to order them or they forgot to send the stuff over to me for verification or something gets missed. And now our job is just halted and I have nothing to do for 2 weeks because I can't do sheetrock until all the windows and doors are installed or something like that. So the design kind of came further down the road as I was figuring out all these obstacles. Another piece of the design is having the ideal clients that come to us that trust us. We can work within the client's budget. If they're willing to share a budget with us, we'll say, okay, we can work with what you're willing to spend on your remodel project, and we'll guide you through. So we're not going to draw you up a full set of architectural plans and get to the finish line and say, oh, this is going to be $1 million project. We know your budget's 500,000, but this is what we came up with. We're pricing out each piece as we go so we can ensure our clients that we're meeting their expectations of A, a budget, and B, like all the final outcome of the design. It's a little easier said than done because, we always have to educate our client throughout the whole process and make sure that we're not overly designing something, because that's very easy to do. It gets lost in translation. We'll have to design things. Our clients will have a design meeting with the designers. They'll get super motivated on picking this Italian handmade tile and the German plumbing fixtures and go to price those out. And well, that percent more than what we had kind of allotted for your spend on those stuff. So let's kind of pull it in a little bit and see how we can get you the really nice plumbing fixtures, but find you a comparable tile because there's thousands of different manufacturers.
The design build model is so appealing. Like you said, if anyone has familiarity with the industries, they understand the challenges that come with the two services being under separate houses, under separate roofs. So to have that offering for your clients of everything's under one roof, there's no miscommunications. And like you brought out, a huge value of that is things don't get over designed. Like you said, the money that could be wasted drawing up all those specific finishes and then come to find out it's not even in the budget. Not only did you waste time, but you wasted money on all the drawings. So the in-house design build model is super appealing for so many reasons. And it's what I appreciate just looking through your work, the portfolio, being in the San Jose communities and neighborhoods, is that's kind of a luxury to have both of those services under one roof. But it also seems like you appeal to a lot of families, a lot of first-time home buyers. I don't know. When I was looking at that, it helped me to see that doesn't necessarily mean that it's out of a first-time homeowner's budget to work with a company like yours and still get that level of service. And so I'm curious, what types of projects do you love working on? What types of projects are the best fit for Woodcliffe Builders?
Yeah. So kind of like going off what you're saying about the clientele is really has to do with the projects that we like working on, where it is like we do get a lot of first-time home buying, someone that understands value. I feel like in the Silicon Valley, in this area, there is, I guess our services could be considered like a luxury piece. And if a client can understand what value we bring, then they're willing to pay for using us as their design, because you can just be flooded and so overwhelmed as a homeowner, even a first-time home buyer, right? You're spending on average for a house in Silicon Valley, it's like 1.3 or $1.4 million, and that might be a total fixer upper. So clients are coming in, they're purchasing these houses that they might have 2 or 3 young kids, and they're buying a 2-bedroom house that they need to, because that's what they can afford in a decent neighborhood where they can send their kids to school. But they need to add, a 3rd bedroom, a 4th bedroom, or just redo the whole entire interior of the space so it makes sense for them. So that being said, like a lot of our clients they understand that value, that luxury piece, because they're sitting there working their buns off trying to make money to afford the remodel. And they're also, probably have this mortgage that they're buying. So yeah, a lot of our ideal jobs that I like to work on are, the 1,000-square-foot bungalows that you can buy around the smaller towns and cities around here. For that, you're looking at you're spending about $1.5 million to get into these entry-level houses that were originally built in the 1920s, 1940s, whenever they were. But that's the entry point. You want to really make sure you're working with someone that can help you design exactly what you want. So my ideal job, or Woodcliffe's ideal job, is, bungalow styled house that we're adding, call it 500 square feet onto. We're retrofitting the existing 1,200 square foot livable space that's there. Or we're adding a second story to the house, whatever it might be. I really enjoy doing the remodel work. There is areas and there is space for new construction, but a lot of people aren't driven towards new construction. And maybe that's just not the market that we've really tapped into too much. We've done a few new construction projects, but we're not there with the $6 million or $10 million mega houses or estates that some builders are doing. The level of detail.
Just went down a little rabbit hole daydreaming about a bungalow remodel in Silicon Valley. Along with that, as an ideal project. So we talked a bit about the projects and what's a good fit, what you've had success with. What kinds of clients do you find you enjoy working with or you have the most success with?
So clients that we have the most success with and enjoy working with is someone that can put trust into Woodcliffe as their designer, budgeting designer, and their budgeting contractor to ensure that we're getting the job done. We've had a lot of projects also that we've taken in where we have clients that come to us who have had architects in the past and designers, and they designed this awesome project that they really wanted, and they're going to other general contractors to price this job out, and they can't get the project for what they're told they would be worth by the architect or by the design team. And those clients sometimes will come to us and then they're like I don't know, their trust is kind of burning out because they come to us, now they're paying for our services and they've already spent, call it 40 or 50 grand on the architectural drawings that they have. They know they can't have more. They spent a year building out and designing a house that they priced out with 5 different contractors and no one even comes close to the budget that they're willing to spend. And so I like when we get clients like that. Maybe our design team, not so much, but I like when we can guide them in the right direction and kind of just start from scratch. But it's all about educating our clients. But the most ideal client is someone that probably hasn't already hired a designer, hasn't already hired an architect to work on the house. They just come to Woodcliffe and they know exactly what they want. They want a 500 square foot addition. They have $800,000 to spend on this project. We come in and we're at $700,000. And then they're like, okay, we want to add X, Y, and Z. Or if we come in and we're at $900,000 as we're going through this design phase, we can at least tell them, well, hey, this is how we can save and cut back. Maybe you don't need 3 master en-suites in the house. Maybe we just make a hall bathroom for those 2 bedrooms. So we can always value engineer these projects because there's a lot of things that come up in the design phase that can really make or break people's budgets, especially once we get like a structural engineer involved. If there's a lot of like earthquake retrofit and foundation retrofits we have to do, I mean, those things can really cheat our budget really quick. So I think where I come into play is like, I know foundation types, I know structural engineering plans, I know typically what the structural engineer is going to recommend for adding the story onto an existing house that's set up for a first floor foundation. So having kind of all these bits and pieces in-house, but knowing how a house goes together, knowing that I can do a foundation myself, I can do the framing myself, or I've done that in the past. Do I want to do that today? Strenuous work and it's hard, but I know how all the pieces go together and how they get glued together. So being at Woodcliffe is just someone that really trusts. Being a client at Woodcliffe, an ideal client with Woodcliffe is someone that really trusts the process of a design build. And we get a lot of first time home buyers as clients, or maybe it's their second home that they're purchasing. And they're like, okay, this is my forever home. I have the funds. I know exactly what I want to do. We want to use Woodcliffe. And so my best clients are first time home buyers or clients that are coming back to us for a second job. As a general contractor, we don't have like a repetitive service for clients yet, right? Unless we're selling some type of maintenance pack or handyman package, which we just don't really do. But our business is so much word of mouth of people seeing our signs on the street. Once we start working in certain neighborhoods, things like they see the sign on the street, they see the clean job site out the front yard job site, see that we're do get the job done in a timely manner, or we've gotten it done very quickly, or they're just talking to our clients in general, and it just goes a long way. Ideal
Awesome.
client, definitely a first-time home buyer or a referral from a past client.
Or like you said, somebody that maybe they're on their second home and they got burned on the first one. They went about it the way that we were talking about. And then it sounds like they can come to Woodcliffe and have just a lot more straightforward, practical approach. And I loved hearing about how much work you put into the plan before and how everything's going to work together and be executed. Because, yeah, those early conversations can save so much headache in the long run. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a good conversation. If anybody's interested in learning more, the website is woodcliffebuilders.com, right?
Woodcliffebuild.com.
Woodcliffebuild.com. And if you want to see some of the projects that Joey and his team have worked on, they've got a beautiful portfolio there. And yeah, that's part of the reason I wanted to have you on the podcast is because, we are talking to the industry leaders of their area and their neighborhoods. And anyone that has a chance to go on the website and see your work, you can just get a very good sense of the quality and also the trust from your team. Like when I was looking through, I'm like, yeah, if I needed my home built or remodeled, absolutely, I'd be reaching out to you. So cliffbuild.com. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the conversation. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Very excited about your journey.
Yes, thanks for having me today, Jade, and appreciate being a guest on your podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Nailed It, business tips from industry leaders, brought to you by Clever Punch. Nailed It is all about connecting with people, building relationships, and helping each other. If you're interested in connecting with any of the guests on our episodes, you can find their contact info in our show notes or on the podcast page at cleverpunchco.com. You can also email info@cleverpunchco.com with any questions or feedback. I'm your host, Jade Flogerzi. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.